During the National Minorities Mental Health and Awareness Month, or BIPOC, Black Indigenous People of Color Month, in July, we will highlight various speakers who work or who have worked in the past in the mental health field. We hope to increase your knowledge and your understanding of the importance of mental health to Black and Indigenous people of color. All right, it's time for Mr. Smith, my friend Joseph Smith, who was born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio. He joined the Army, the United States Army, in the mid-1990s. While in the military, he completed Armor Crewman School, and that was at Fort Knox, Kentucky. Then he was stationed at Fort Riley, Kansas. He served in the military as a dedicated soldier in the U.S. Army and the Army Reserve, and retired a disabled veteran. Joseph completed an Associates of Arts degree in 2011 from Cloud County Community College. In 2014, he completed his Bachelor's of Social Work, and in 2016, his Master's of Social Work with a focus on behavior and therapeutic techniques from Washburn University. He was a member of the Phi Alpha National Social Work Honor Society. In 2013, he completed a 9-month internship at a community mental health center as a group coordinator. He was working with teens on coping with a variety of social emotional disturbances. In 2015, he began a 9-month internship with the school district, learning about the roles of social work in special education and working with students and families. Then, Joseph became a licensed master social worker in the state of Kansas in 2016. Beginning in 2009, Joseph started working with the Community Mental Health Center, working with children and families in Geary County, Riley County, Dickinson County, and Clay County. His work in this field sparked his interest in social work as a profession. Presently, Joseph works as a general education social worker in the local school district. In the school, he focuses on social emotional learning, character building, anti-bullying, implementation of the Jason Flack Act, and being a bridge for the community, school, and family relationships. Joseph has a son that graduated from USD 475 and Cloud County Community College. He has a passion for building a bridge in mental health for those who are undeserved, such as minority, impoverished, and veterans of the armed services. He strives to be a mentor for those who aspire to pursue a career in the helping profession and promote professional diversity within the helping professional. I bring to you my friend, Mr. Joseph Smith. Joseph Smith. Been knowing you since 2003,
about
2004.
Yeah.
And we went to school together.
Yeah.
Used to be clowning in the what was that, culture anthropology class
Yeah,
we had together.
Jerry's class.
Jerry's class,
class,
you know,
yeah.
which was fun. You know, I appreciate you. You know, you were talking earlier about, you know, some of us and how we encourage you. But, man, I think about, like I say, Jimmy Turner.
Yeah.
When I was working there, and I ended up going to Cloud because he would tell me stuff like, don't do like me, Antonio. I stopped at my bachelor's. You need to go ahead, go to school and do the, you know, he encouraged me to go to school because I wasn't thinking about doing no college, man. I was just happy to be, you know, chilling for a lesson. So the same thing with you, man. I remember you when you was doing, going to Washburn and do all that driving and everything, but you stayed with it. And the thing about it, it can become a big weight on you. You know, that's why I think that was some of the fear with me about going back to school. Because I like the pressure of that last minute test, you know, getting in there and doing that test. But some of the pressure of studying and sitting in class, you know, I don't know if I can do it again. But I think about it, man, all the time. So why not go back and do something? Because
I'm got great.
And now you're going to be getting the doctorate degree, right?
I'll be working on a doctorate soon. It's going to be in traumatology. It's going to be a doctorate in traumatology. So.
Okay. Well, let's jump right in here. It says, I was talking about the stigma of mental health, especially in the Black community.
Well, when you look at the word stigma alone means dishonor or disgrace, you know. Okay. So when you look at stigma, the stigma of Black people just in general, being worried about being looked at differently or racism and those types of things. But let me go over to the statistics first. 1 out of 5 people in the world suffers from mental health. One out of five. 1 out of 5. Mental health is one of the most scrutinized genres of health in the world. I think it's number one. The World Health Organization estimates that 70 million Americans suffer from mental health, and that's documented. There's a lot of people walking around here that's not documented or have a diagnosis. 70 million, and then it's like 1 billion of the world's population suffers from mental health. So that's huge. It's huge. Yeah. And when you think about it, especially in our community, is just we could look at black people or any other people, but when you look at somebody who has a mental health issue, the stigma is something's wrong. You're almost treated as a minority. Exactly. You are a minority. Once you get it's all about the label. Mm-hmm. People are ashamed of those labels. Mm-hmm. It's like if I called in to work and when you could tell what was wrong with you, and I would say, hey, I'm calling in because I threw out my back. That's more acceptable than calling in and saying I'm depressed. You see what I'm saying? So when you look at those stigmas, and the word, even just a negative word, the meaning disgrace, it's not disgrace or dishonor. It's not warranted because the brain is such a fascinating piece of work because it is our computer. It's our computer board of our body. If your brain is not working right. Your body's not doing what it's supposed to do. But I think for me, when I see it's just people are ashamed to admit that they have a problem, and we have overcome so much. As if you want to go to just black people, we have overcome so much from your ancestors and mine coming over from West Africa. Just imagine if your great-great-grandfather or my great-great-grandfather was one of the ones that died over the trip, we wouldn't be here. It's been we have been going through trauma since then. Since we've come over from there, it's been traumatic. And I may be going off subject, but that's something good. I wanted to get out.
That's good. That's on the subject.
It's traumatic for black people. When we come over from West Africa, our ancestors, and they arrive in a place they ain't never seen before, and they don't speak the language, they don't know the customs, and then they say, well, we're gonna go ahead and sell you to this person, and that person. And that's where you see the distrust. I know you had wrote down on there. It's something I just want to get out now because it's on my head. Okay. The distrust between the society, the system of America. Because I won't say that every Caucasian person. No, I won't, because a lot of Caucasians helped me get where I'm at today. And in that way. But you could even look at the Tuskegee experiment, when a lot of people might not know that. Where these particular scientists and medical professionals had said, well, we'll give these people medical care because black people needed medical care. When a lot of them, they would give free medical care if they participated in an experiment, but they didn't tell them they was giving them syphilis. That's where the distrust come from. It's the distrust from every aspect since our ancestors has come from this country. It's just like I have a friend. She does case management in Topeka, and I went on a ride with her. She would go to go to people's houses. Okay. And she worked for a healthcare group, Assurance, and some of her clientele were Native Americans off there on the Potawatomi Basin, and we was in the car. Now this lady is a Caucasian lady, bright red hair. And we went to Washburn together. I said, I'll ride with you. I'll just ride in the car with you. I said, you're going to have problems. I said, they're not. I said, as far as I know, I would have a better outcome going to their door than you. Because they have distrust because of what happened in the past. And that's what people need to understand. The people who listen to your podcast or these people in here, they unaware. Black people's fear comes way back. Are a lot of I think, if I'm not mistaken, statistically, black people are the most depressed people. That stuff has been handed down. That's in our DNA from slavery. The horrors of slavery, and even some of the mental health things. I was reading a book by Dick Gregory, It's one of his books. I'm not gonna mention the name because it's kind of a bad name, but it was Dick Gregory, the comedian, and I was probably about 17 years old, and one of the passages I read, he talks about where the curse word MF comes from. MF comes from when they would have a mother slave have sex with her son. And that when you hear that word, that's where it comes from. And they would make kids. It's been proven in history that when you mix the same bloodlines, something goes on up here.
Right.
So, it's those types of things and the horrors of, back in slavery time. And then, when you look at in the past, when you look at like Emmett Till, like when I was a kid, I seen the picture of Emmett Till up there, and I think it was Chicago. And he, had him in the casket, and it was like, man, that's traumatic. That's
mother was in the seat.
And this was years. This was probably 1980 something when I seen this, because of back home, a lot of the teachers that I would talk came from the civil rights movement. So I was fortunate to have some teachers. Cleveland was a big influx from Alabama. My great grandpappy from Alabama, and and they would talk. They would actually have serious conversations, about at a young age. This is what we experienced. This is why we moved up north, and we thought we was moving up north better. And it was kind of the same things, but it was more, getting jobs and pushing, and then the segregation of neighborhoods. So when you look at Black people as a whole, we face trauma. Then we can go all the way back to when they brought that first Dutch ship over here and sold those first slaves. Till we just had the incident with George Floyd, Tamir Rice. It's the same thing. We look on TV. I don't even like watching the news, because when I see the news, a lot of times it's like, what's gonna happen today? Right. And I know you raised your grandson, and me and my son and your grandson graduated together. Right. We had to tell them, and I'm sure I can't speak for you, but I'm sure you had to tell them, like, hey, this is how you act when you get around the police. Yes. And that creates mental issues. When I get pulled over, I get high anxiety. What did I leave in the car? Right. Do I have anything? Which I don't do none of that stuff. But who did I have in my car? Who might have dropped something on my seat?
See, I don't think people understand that. That anxiety, you see those lights or something, it still hits you because you know what could happen.
Yeah, it could happen. It could happen at any time. And I've been, we both in a lot of ways have been blessed. People think, oh, that's just stuff that people talk. No, every day. When I wake up in the morning, when I get ready to go and face the world, when I get ready to go to work, one of the first things after I get ready for work and I'm getting ready to head out the door, who's going to judge me today because I'm a Black male? It don't matter what degrees I have on my wall. A lot of, not everybody, but some people look at you for the color of your skin, or like you're not just as good as them. And that's been in pretty much every workplace. I've had people look at me because I don't really carry myself like that. I'm always gonna be me. I'm just that kid from Cleveland. I'm not gonna change who I am, but I am gonna be smarter than you most times. But I don't come across that way. But when you go out here, you like, who's gonna judge me today? How am I gonna get pulled over by the police? It's like so much pent up, like you said, the soda can is so much pent up anxiety just to get from home to work, and then you make it to work, and then you get there, and then you got to deal with these same people who are going to judge you for the color of your skin or because you're a male. I tell people, I said, when you look at where I work, and you know where I work, but how many Black males do what I do? I'm the only one. I'm the only one. When you look at Black females, there are some that do it, but when you look at Black males, I am the only one. And when you look at where I work and you look at the statistics, the Black males are very low because where are we at? A lot of us may be in prison, maybe not working. I know that's a little bit off subject, but I needed to get that out because that's all conducive to people think it's just mental health starts because what's going on now. A lot of stuff that we experience mental health wise started a very long time ago. very long time ago.
That's true. Now, people, they don't understand it. You were saying earlier about being pulled over and things like that. But it's in, when I was a kid, we really wasn't taught, like these kids now, they hate the police. You ask them, man, they go to police. I have kids with me now, and they say, man, they go to police. I can't stand the police. I said, why? What they do to you? Yep. You only 8 years old. What you experience? But when I was little, we didn't dislike the police. We had, before we see some of the stuff that they did, it was a separate, you just stayed out their way. You didn't do nothing wrong now, Yep. But some of these guys, like they try to agitate them or push them. But I still, like you said, man, when I get pulled over, man, I got an app on my phone. I say, hey, I don't want to say, hey, whatever my phone gives, I'm getting pulled over. And it automatically start recording. Yep. Just in case. I haven't used it yet, but just in case. So in the, I know when I grew up in Chicago, you wouldn't hear a black man say that he suffered from depression. Yeah. He's suffering. Yep. He has anxiety. Yep. You might say, what's wrong with so-and-so, Uncle so-and-so? He stay in the room all day. Yep. Or he won't go outside. But nobody said anything about, I was in the 5th grade, and I went to a new school in 5th grade. Left the hood and went into a new school. And this school was beautiful, windows and everything, really beautiful school. And I remember I could not make friends. So what I started doing, I would sneak and listen to my dad's Richard Pryor album, Red Fox and all them, Pig Meat, Yeah. And I would crack them jokes in school. And that's how I started making friends, but it was getting me in trouble all the time. Yep. And what did they do? I have to ask. I said I was going to call my mother and ask about this, but I remember them I went to this other school that they had to get tested to see what was wrong with me. So ain't nothing wrong with him. But that was back then. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I don't know. I knew I had anxiety problems. I knew I had probably ADHD or something back then because I could not keep still, could not focus. But today, we diagnose those problems a little bit more. We'll say, we have, because the school would not push you like they do today. Yeah. The school would refer you to for mental health, and not like they do today. So you've hit on so many points already about the racism and poverty, just certain areas that they say. But what is the problem with us saying, hey, I have a problem or I need help? Because we still end up having black men commit suicide or black women commit suicide. We still have those numbers, even though we won't go to the help we need. You said it earlier. I mean, this brain is an organ just like any. If we have problems with our diabetes, we're going to see the doctor. We have problems with our heart, we're going to see the doctor. But what about this?
And that's funny that you said that, because when you look at in early 80s, I remember when the AIDS epidemic started to take forth then, and I was sitting there with my grandparents, and I think it was Rock Hudson who was on television at the time, and they said he contracted AIDS and he died within a year. Mm-hmm. Then was that 7-8 years later we get Magic Johnson in 1991, one of my heroes. You're like, Magic Johnson? But the stigma was that mostly people who contracted this disease were homosexuals, But what happened in 1991 when Magic contracted HIV, that you had these awareness groups building a force to try to do something about this. Okay. And look at Magic now. It's 31 years later. Magic's still alive. But Rock Hudson last year, you know why? Because they had people to get in there and start to have advocacy and make an awareness in this, and having scientists do what they need to do. To try to come. They even have, I was watching a commercial the other day. They have a pill where people can take this pill like maintenance, like a blood pressure pill, and that has AIDS HIV, because it's different, and they can still have a normal life. They just have to take this pill. That's how far we've come, and that's the issue. I compare that to mental health. It is the same thing. The only difference that I think people have an issue with, with HIV, with cancer, with diabetes, with high blood pressure, you have an instrument or some type of way to diagnose that. Like, see the physical diagnosis. All of our stuff is observation and screeners and those types of things to be able to diagnose. And I think a lot of that has to change too, because I think people are misdiagnosed. You know, even our profession. You've been doing this a long time. I've been doing it. It's our profession has been put in stigma. Right. Think about it. How many psychiatrists you see now? It's a dying profession. Mm-hmm. It is a dying. They have nurses performing the job of psychiatrists because it's people out there that says mental health does not exist. It is groups out there that says mental health does not exist. You don't need counselors, therapists, psychologists, psychiatrists. You don't need these people because it doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. And that's where you talk about the stigma. That's what it is. Is that needs to change. Mental health has been around if you really use common sense, but in my opinion, sometimes common sense not common no more. Mm-hmm. Mental health has been around since the beginning of time. You think about the tribes of each, no matter what race you are, they had tribes at the time. You always had the leader of the tribe, mm-hmm. and most likely that leader had a spiritual advisor mm-hmm. to help them through issues. Yeah. And they had a medicine person to help them through issues. So that's been around forever. Mm-hmm. It's been around forever, but you got these people to say, "Oh no, that doesn't exist. We don't need this or that." Our whole profession is scrutinized. Mm-hmm. If you didn't know, it's scrutinized. Right.
That's why they don't. In the systems that we have, the kids don't have anyone. When I got in trouble when I was young, mm-hmm. I went and saw the principal. You didn't have no other people, social workers or anything like that in the school. You saw either the principal or the vice principal, and they determined what happened to you. These kids do. I am happy for that they have an outlet that they can use. Yep. But they taught so much as they were young that to not think of themselves. Ain't nobody gonna say, "Boy, you crazy, you got mental problems." Mm-hmm. But just say he just need a good whooping. Yep. He need that. When I was young, I believed in a young parent. I believed in chastising the kid. But now I see what that does to a kid. As my kids got older, mm-hmm. and it's what I think back to me that is that really doing anything? Mm-hmm. Are you really trying to figure out what the problem is? Anywhere from this mental health or acting out in school. Yeah. It can be all tied in together. But one thing I want to ask you is about the barriers. What do you think are some of the major barriers to stop African American or people of color from getting adequate treatment? Is it barriers that societies have got up, or is it barriers that we have?
I think it's a combination of both. Mm-hmm. When you look at, I heard you earlier, you was talking about poverty. Mm-hmm. Poverty is really a mindset. I'm not saying it's a financial thing, but it's a mindset. And I think poverty is one of the major barriers because when you look at somebody who's not informed or educated and not aware, mm-hmm. and then you combine that with money and responsibility, not having money to pay A and B and C, mm-hmm. and then you have responsibilities, that creates an issue. Most humans, when you in poverty, you're in a survival mode. You're just trying to survive. You're trying to make it to the next day. So I think with the poverty, when you look at poverty, that is a huge barrier. Also, I think that when you look at, I'm going to go to the next step, would be therapists or counselors or people who are in this profession. When a person of a minority goes to see a person, I can't speak for every minority, but and this probably for everybody, even not, you ain't gotta be mm-hmm. black. When you go see someone, and especially the way we've been ingrained, mm-hmm. and this person, you go see this person for help, you're gonna look like this person can't help me. This person don't know mm-hmm. nothing about my situation. That's just give me a pill and send me on my way. Yeah. And that's how it works. The thing is that the young therapists or counselors, because I like to get it all in their psychologists, it needs to be more diversity training, but not in a training in a book. Mm-hmm. Not in a book. You need to get out and start dealing with these individuals and learning their customs. One of the things is, I worked in, mm-hmm. at one point for 6 years, I worked in a predominantly Caucasian community, mm-hmm. and for 6 years, that, if I'm not mistaken, the statistics on that community were 98% Caucasian. Mm. It's funny because when I went there, it is a funny story. I was with, Mitch Holmes. I was with her, and she was taking me to this particular community. And first, when you come in the city, you come in there and you see a building that says Coon Hunters Club, and that's that's ingrained in us.
And it come in our mind.
But I knew my dad was a hunter, so and now I knew what it was. But I was like, man, that's discouraging.
Right.
But my experience. The barrier, like you talk about barriers, I had to either I was gonna have a job or not. So what I've always been as a mental health provider, I've always been like the blob. I adapt to my situation. Okay. I don't want the client to adapt to me. So when I started working with these families and kids in this community, I learned about their situation.
That's good.
Learn about what their customs are, and then once you get that relationship, that's a nugget, the relationship. If you ain't got a relationship, that's always going to be a barrier. And if you don't have a relationship with these individuals or learn about their customs and what they do, even though this is 20, 30, 45 minutes from here, you're not going to learn anything. That's a barrier, because that's a barrier between treatment and clientele. Until we as a schooling system, a university system, as a society, learn to talk about these things and have these uncomfortable conversations, you're not going to be able to help people. And that's one of the things with black people, we kind of feel, and again, I can't speak for all, that people don't understand our situation. And people always trying to throw their values on us.
Okay.
And that's one of the barriers. Then you put poverty in there. And then, a lot of times, I'll just speak from my own personal family. My grandmother was the therapist of the family. We never took things outside of the house, which was a barrier. We never took things out of the house.
Don't do it.
My grandmother, I look back now that I'm an older man, middle-aged man. I said my grandmother probably was the biggest influence on what I do today. Because everybody don't matter what was going on, everybody went to grandma, and grandma had that answer for them. And sometimes they didn't want to hear that answer. Right. They didn't want to hear it, but they got it. That's part of the barrier, because we have kept things on house, which is good. And a lot of other cultures do that. Asians, a lot of Hispanic, a lot of things, a lot of minority, we keep our stuff in house. Right. And I'm not saying Caucasians don't do it; they do it too. But especially us, we keep things in house. Right. It could be the worst thing, but it's kept in house.
The furthest we're gonna go is to the church.
Yeah, to the church.
And
we ain't gonna go
the pastor with,
and then you're gonna bring Jesus. Grandma and everybody else with you. But that's one of the biggest barriers. And then having that mentality, to overcome it on our own. Sometimes you're going to need help. All of us going to need help. And that's a barrier. You look at that's a barrier, being able to not be able to take your problems outside the house. When you look at black males, it's dealing with all this stuff, and we supposed to have this above and strong above everything. No, we hurt and cry just like everybody else. And that's a barrier, because you that stubborn that you don't want to go talk. You think you can handle everything on your own.
Right.
That's a stubbornness. Sometimes you're going to need help. I agree. I'm the same way. I speak to myself. I will try to figure the problem out on my own before I seek help. But if I got to the point where I'm getting ready to hit rock bottom, I got to seek help.
That's right. I wish people would understand that. A couple of years ago, man, and a year ago, I knew I hit rock bottom about a year, 2.5 years ago. January 7th, 2019, right there.
Yeah.
And because I wasn't seeking help from anyone or anybody. I bottling all up inside. Staying at the house, calling in. I had all these sick days and all this time off. I stayed at home. Yep. And tried to solve the problem with other means, self-medicating. But it didn't work, man. People don't understand that just adds more into the problem,
We're held 3 times higher. We're black people are held 3 times higher in the society, and if people want to hear that, but it's true. I got statistics, and even in the job that I work, they talk about how black people are disciplined 3 times for 3 times more for the same offense than any other race. That's pressure.
That is pressure.
That's pressure. And and I hear what you're saying. And I tell people, I say, and then you got to look at the job that we do. We don't do a good job of taking care of ourselves. Remember we used to sit in the office and I say, Mr. Tim, I said, me and you see each other more than we see our family. How many times you heard me say that?
Yeah, you see that.
We see, and it was the last year that your grandson was getting ready to graduate and my son was graduating. They was in high. I said, man, we see each other more than we see our families because we're trying to help. We are spread so thin. We are spread so thin. And that's a barrier as well as helping our clientele or the people that we serve is that we're putting so much into this. This field to me, and you've seen it. You've doing this a long time. You see therapists been doing this for 25 years. We've seen people die on the job. Yeah. This here, if you really working like in the community, really trying to help people, this takes a toll on you. You are completely burnt. Sometimes when you come home, you're burnt. Then you completely burnt. You got to get up and do it again the next day. And I'm not saying other professions, but this is more of a mental drain. I come home and sometimes I won't even eat yet. Turn the TV on, may put on a little music and sit right out there, man. Yeah. Ain't nothing. I mean, it's beautiful out there. You can see something, but just see, because we have to take care of ourselves. You have to. You have to get these things out of your system. Because you will hurt yourself. You end up hurting yourself, or you're going to be in the hospital. And I already know I got a shelf life. I'm looking at maybe doing this 20, and I'm in year 13 now. Okay. 20 years, that's it. And then I might go try to teach somewhere. But I know that my shelf life, I've looked at the therapists that we work for. I've looked at some of the cases. I've looked at my own situation, how it affects my relationship with I was always at work. Like, my son was in high, and I spent a lot of time. I was either at work, what we talk about, at work or at school. I was completely burnt out. Yeah. It came times like that. I've seen times when you were burnt out. Yeah. I know you've seen it in me and other people, and say, man, you need to take a break. I got to have all those vacation days stored up and don't use them because you feel like you're going to be letting the company down. Thank you. Or the children down. Or the people down. I better stay here. And then forget about your own family may be falling apart, man. Yep. And one thing I've learned from raising my grandson is that an African-American man needs a positive African-American role model. You got that right. And he needs to see that. Yep. And so that's why I always try to. I mean, I made mistakes, and he's seen them, but I know that I did something right to cause him to want to be in the profession that he's in. Yeah, man, look at what he's doing now. Yeah, even look at my son. You make a good point because, people look at my success educational wise, and where I come from and all that and things like people who know me. A lot of my success was built on my son. A lot of my success was built on him. I was just like you. I said, how can I help my son understand that you could be successful? I'm not saying education is always that was my my genre, but he's seen what I had. He wrote something. He's applying for this scholarship. It's a disabled veteran scholarship through me or something, and he had wrote something. And he wrote something that really touched me. And he wrote because they said talk about your the veteran and your father or whoever the veteran in your life. And he had said one thing that I'm proud of my dad because I seen my dad work and go to school full time and do that for 7 years straight. And the proudest moment for me is to see him walk across the stage when at Washburn Day. My son's kind of like me. He's not a very emotional person. So when you see that brings everything home. Like, did I do? Yeah, I'm like you. I made a whole lot of mistakes. I'm not perfect, but I always told my son, this is something. I said, listen, your dad is not perfect. You've seen the mistakes I've made. You've seen some of the things that went on in my life. But one of the things is I always want you to take the positives from what you learn from me and make them better or make them your own or do something good and learn from the mistakes. So when you have a family or when you get out here and be a father, that you don't make the same mistakes that I did.
See, you just did the title of my podcast and all in one little sentence, more or less, and on the story. I mean, the title of it, Experience, Strength, and Hope. Yeah. I want people to talk about what they experience, and if it's been bad, I've had some bad experience, but then my strength is what did it take for me to get up out of that?
Yeah.
And then where I want to go with it. I wanted someone else to see. We always. Yeah. I mean, my kids are grown now, so one of the reasons I stay in this job is for some of the kids, black, white, Hispanic, Asian. It don't matter what they are. Is to be able to them see somebody positive, especially positive male. We don't have enough men in the school.
Yeah, we don't.
We don't have enough men in mental health. No. We can't. I'm the only one now. Yeah. For doing the job that I do, it's other men in there, but I'm the only one. And before we had plenty, and so we need to see more men. So wrapping it up, I want you to just tell me where you think we go from here, first with the stigma, with mental health, and since it is Minority Mental Health Month, where do we go from here?
Well, the first thing, if you don't have no communication, between people that are above the system itself, and you had people not having these uncomfortable conversations about the trauma that minorities deal with in the United States of America. If those conversations are really, you see it sometimes, but you really don't know. That's why I touched on a lot of us, our family coming from West Africa. Yeah. Because that's where it started. Okay. That's where it started. The trauma, I'm speaking more to the trauma, but trauma, what does trauma do? Creates a mental health, mental illness in a lot of ways. And a lot of don't get me wrong, some of us are born with mental health issues, but a lot of our black people, a lot of our trauma comes from just the trauma from just in life and what we see. That means having those conversations at the local level, the state level, the federal government. I know that's the easy answer, but that's the only way it's going to change. Okay. That's the only way it's going to change in that aspect. Now, with us as a group, we need to have those uncomfortable conversations and call people to the carpet like, hey, you need to get some help. You dealing with, you drinking every night. You passed out. You're not going to work. Suffering from addictions and things like that. Or something didn't happen, or you done went to, like you said, uncle went to Vietnam, you always stayed in the room. Not having those uncomfortable conversations. You just got back from war, but you are totally different. You're going to be different when you come back, but you're isolating yourself. If you're not having those uncomfortable conversations, and then when you look at that, and then the person who is suffering from the mental illness got to take steps. We've seen it many times where we're putting 110 into a family or a client, and we like, man, there's nothing changed. We done went through all these different steps, and nothing's changing. The people have to change. They have to get out of the mindset that they can do it all on their own, because one thing about black people in the United States of America, or even minorities, we are that's everybody's name should be perseverance and resilience, because we have persevered and resilience through a lot in this country. And that's where it starts. Perseverance, resilience, keep doing that. Not making mental health normalized. It's such a big issue. It's almost like you walking around with cow poop on you. It's serious, but it's not that serious. It's like, high blood pressure. If you treat it correctly and you do the steps, I kind of compare that, because when you got high blood pressure, you take medicine, but if you're not watching your salt, you're not watching your stress level, the pill don't do nothing. Right. And that's how mental health is. People think they can go, and I know a lot of black people, they go get pills. Or minorities, or even to get pills. They think that's the end of it. That works for the short term. Coping skills is long term. It's like a life change you have to make. So that's one of the steps there. The next thing is, what I was speaking about earlier, is that people who are providing these services need to be more aware of the minority experience. And you can do that. There is some dynamite therapists out there that don't look like me.
Right.
Some of the best advice that I ever got, how to do things, how to help people, did not come from people who look like me.
Right.
So those things they need to get in there, especially in the community mental health. You're gonna have all types of people come across. You're not, if you come from a small town and it's 99% this, and you come to a town that's very diverse, you're not going to understand that diversity. You're not going to understand the culture. Our culture, is very, it's not different, because really, if you really look at our culture, it's built off of the American system. We just found little avenues to make it our own. But that's what it is. They have to, the system has to figure out how to help people to build a relationship and trust, because that relationship and trust has been broken for years. I'm not saying that applies to everybody, but I've had numerous of people come to me and say, Joseph, you got this degree. Why don't you go work here? Because there's not enough people who look like me to be able to be a therapist and and work there, because that's the reason why I won't go. But at the end of the day, Tim, I'm not the God of black people problems. You know what I'm saying? I don't know all black people problems.
Right.
I know my problems, and I know what are the things that I've seen in life. But that's a misconception too. Yes. That's a stigma too, because I'm a black male. Yeah. That I know all black people problems. No, I do not.
Thank you.
I do not. Good. But teach me about yours so I can help you. And that's the bottom, like our Jimmy say, that's the bottom line. Teach me about you so I can help you. And if anybody can take something from that, if you're trying to get in this field, that's what you got to do. And you got to be humble. You got to be, sometimes my issue, I don't like to be submissive, but in this field, it's funny, I'm submissive to it because I respect it. Okay. This field here and helping people, you have to respect that. Mm-hmm. If you don't respect the game, you in trouble. And we know people who should not probably be in this field because they don't respect the clientele and the games that's there. It's not a game, but that's how I want to put it to you. It's a game. You have to be able to play it, and you got to know your part, and you have to respect it, because if you don't, and you're gonna have some issues. Mm-hmm. I know we've seen people almost lose their license doing stupid stuff that you wouldn't think somebody with a 30-year that been doing therapy 30 years would do. Yeah, 30 years would do something that for 30 years. You know why they did that? Because they burn out. And you don't make sound decisions. Mm-hmm. What was your last question? The last part of the question?
You be going on, Joe. I like that, man. You just said something that just struck something in me and stuff, so I really appreciate it. I think the last part was about where do we go from here, where do we, far as just not just eliminate the stigma, but dealing with it to convince people to, to think about, if it's the issue, not to just to see a therapist or to go get medication, but if you've been depressed on and off, and then that on and off start to be more days than, more long days than a short day or a short hour, then you might need to talk to someone. And it's not saying that you, a lot of us, and I'm going to tell you why a lot of us is, I think, afraid that as soon as someone say they're depressed, they say, does that mean you want to kill yourself? And, it doesn't mean, the thought may have came not to kill myself, but like, man, I'm not worth nothing. That's it's going to lead up into it, because you start having those worthless thoughts. Yep. And then before you know it, you're thinking about, okay, I don't need to be around, period. But I think a lot of them are ashamed to say, I'm depressed, because people don't understand what depression is. Yeah. They don't understand what anxiety is, So the first thing they think is that you say you're depressed, you want to kill yourself.
Yeah, you want to kill yourself, or you want to kill somebody because you got too much anxiety. No,
exactly.
It's the preventive. I think that as a whole, and it really boils down to the system, that we need more preventive care. Mm-hmm. When I thought about this before I came over here, I always, when I got in this profession, I always want to be in the preventive portion. I never, when you look at social work, most people think of social work, they think that you're going to go take their kids. Yeah. But I don't specialize in that. And when I looked, I said, all the years that I worked at where I used to work at, and even what I do now, it's like I'm more on the reactive, and I never wanted to be that. So, proper screeners, that's one.
Yeah.
You know, they got about what, 2? I might be wrong on this. You got 2 screeners. You know, one if you wanna hurt yourself or complete suicide, and then you might have one for depression or something like that. They need better screeners to be able to. And you know how many years we've been doing, how many people we know been misdiagnosed. Yeah. The diagnosis. It needs to be better diagnosis. It needs to be more people that wants to seek help and try to get out and get help. Right. And that's it's kind of a hard question because you can't force someone to seek help. Mm-hmm. We had a young man we knew that walked across a river and went in the river. I never thought he was out there playing on the river. I thought something else. Right. Because he had hit rock bottom. Mm-hmm. You know, was put in jail not too long before that. You know, so those types of things that I know it lay on your heart and it lays on mine. And this professor, it's the scar that's always going to be there because that's one we knew like this. Yep. And what could we've done, you know? And what happened? He didn't have no insurance and all this other stuff. It was just a lot of stuff, and that's an issue too. They treat you different. In my opinion, people are treated different when they have medical cards. When they have certain insurances, I'm not going to say the name. They might treat you better because you have, you know, more of a private insurance. And a lot of employers only give you, like, if I'm not mistaken, like, I think the best is like 10 free sessions where the employer your card will pay for it. Those things, mental health, and especially if you're working in this field or if you got family members, and it needs to be more comprehensive things done in mental health in general. Don't get me wrong, it has got better because I remember, you know, I'm not in the 80s. They send you crazy and they put you in a mental institution for the rest of your life. Don't get me wrong, it has come further, but I think the diagnosis, people in general, black people, minorities, Caucasians, you have to be strong enough to say that I got it. You have to have family members that's gonna come to you and say you got a problem and you need to get some help. Right. Because the downside is that, like you said, you don't want to be burying somebody. You want to see if they can get some help, because that's, especially when you're dealing with some of these things, they either go to jail, and then they go to jail because they did something due to their mental health. I tell people I work with all the time, judges don't want to hear about. Most judges don't even take in consideration your mental health. You know how many people a year claim insanity and win? Not many. No. Not many. Not many. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear that. What they look at is the law. So what I try to encourage people that I work with, learn the coping skill, attend the therapy, and if you're on medication, take it consistently. If you do those and you got the support. Now some people don't have support or family, but it takes the best successes I think I've had in this field when it's a whole team effort. When you got the family, you got the client, you got the service provider, you got the medical provider, you got if they're a school age person, and they all working together, it's usually equal success. But a lot of times we're fighting other entities, people not working together. Okay. So that's where that has to happen with the change, where it can go further. Everybody has to work together. Everybody needs to have uncomfortable conversations, and we need some changes in the communities, statewide and country, and really worldwide, because it's not treated. It should be treated almost less like if you're going to a doctor, if you're being treated for cancer, diabetes, and it's not treated that way because people don't think mental illness exists.
I know we do. But Joe, I thank you, brother.
No problem.
It's been a long time, and we can go back. Yep. All the way back to the good times. And
the bad times, the good times. We had a lot of battles. We had a lot of battles together.
But I thank you, brother.
No problem. No problem.
Right. Thank you for listening. I appreciate your support by lending me your ear. Please go and subscribe, follow, and share my podcast. For questions and comments, I can be reached at bigdog0862@me.com. That's bigdog0862@me.com. Tune in weekly for something interesting and exciting. This is Antonio the Mayor, Tony the Mayor, signing off and saying thank you. And remember, You can reach me also on Facebook at Tony the Mayor. Tony the Mayor, DAMAYOR. And you can also reach me on Instagram, the Mayor 0862. The Mayor, DAMAYOR 0862. So I'll be looking to hear from you next time. And remember, call me. Send me a message, because everyone has a story to tell of experience, strength, and hope. And I want to hear your story. Thank you again.